Welcome to the Vital Spirit podcast. I'm Dr. Kelly Livingston, a naturopathic physician and your guide to a new health reality, one that connects body, mind, and spirit. Together, we'll dive deep into the art and science of holistic healing. Through working with hundreds of women through midlife transitions, I've discovered something profound. Most of our physical and emotional challenges are rooted in a maladaptive stress response. And true healing begins when we regulate our nervous system. Each episode will explore complex health topics in simple, empowering ways, uncover the deeper wisdom within each of us, and share practical tools for nervous system regulation to help you awaken your vital force and create lasting wellness. So, if you're ready to reconnect with yourself, your health, and your purpose, let's begin this journey together, so you can experience life more fully human and deeply healed. Hi, and welcome to the Vital Spirit podcast. I am Dr. Kelly Livingston. If you're new here, in our first few episodes, we covered some background on the philosophy of naturopathic medicine, the therapeutic order, and what the Vital Spirit method is, which is my signature care system for guiding patients through true healing. You can also learn more about it on my website at drkellylivingston.com. Part of that journey is learning how to water what we call our seeds of health. These are the foundational practices that create the conditions for your body to do what it's designed to do, heal. Today, we're talking about the very first seed, mindfulness, and why it lays the foundation for every other part of your healing journey. I often introduce mindfulness and breathwork together because they're so deeply connected. Later on in an episode, we'll even have a guest expert on to join us and go even deeper into breathwork. But today we're going to start here with mindfulness. And don't stop the episode. I know that the word mindfulness and definitely the word meditation can be a turnoff for some. If you're one of those people, please take a listen. I guarantee that I might change your mind about things. Let me paint a picture for you. It's 7:15 in the morning. You're pouring coffee. Your phone is buzzing from emails you received overnight, and maybe your kids are asking where their shoes are, or your partner can't find their keys. Your body is already in fight or flight mode, and the day hasn't even begun. By the time you sit down to work, you've reacted to at least 10 different things, often without even realizing it. This isn't just being busy. This is your nervous system being trained day in and day out to live in a reactive, stress-driven state. In the Vital Spirit method, we start with mindfulness because it's the antidote to that autopilot mode so many of us are living in out of necessity. Mindfulness is what lets you press pause. And in that pause, you get to choose your response instead of being ruled by old patterns, instead of being hijacked by your nervous system state. And I want to anchor this conversation in one of my favorite quotes from Viktor Frankl, and that is, between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. That space is what mindfulness gives you. And here's the thing. Today, stuff is going to happen. Someone will say something that rubs you the wrong way. You'll get an alert on your phone about some tragedy in the world. The weather might suddenly turn sour when you had plans to do something outside. The line at your favorite lunch spot could be way too long, or maybe a close friend calls with news of a cancer diagnosis. This is the stimulus. This is the world reaching out and shoving you around, right? The real question is, what will you do about it? What will your reaction be to this stimulus? So many women that come into my office are running on autopilot. And as you've heard me say before, our story follows our state. So if our nervous system state is dysregulated, or we're not able to come back to that ventral vagal regulation state, then the story in our mind is going to also be chaotic. And therefore, we don't have a space between stimulus and response, and we are constantly reacting all day long. This is so draining for our body, and it is not creating the conditions for health. In the Vital Spirit method, the seeds of health are daily practices that help regulate your nervous system, reduce inflammation, and build resilience of body, mind, and spirit. So we do begin with mindfulness because stress and inflammation are the root causes of so much disease that I see. They're also the reason many people walk into my office, right? Whether they come in for digestive issues, hormonal changes, migraines, or mood swings. And the coolest thing is that mindfulness doesn't just make you feel calmer. Research actually shows that it can reduce anxiety and depression, lower blood pressure, improve sleep quality, ease chronic pain, and even reshape the brain itself. So you'll have less gray matter in your amygdala, which is your fear center, and you'll have more in your hippocampus and in areas of the brain that are linked to empathy and compassion. So when you're practicing mindfulness, you're not just managing stress, you're literally changing your physiology and changing your brain. You're creating the conditions to feel less stress, more kindness, and more capacity to respond in ways that align with who you really are and where you want to be on your health journey. So let's talk a little bit about what mindfulness is, because I see you, that person that wants to turn this episode off because you are not into it. You don't want to practice mindfulness. You're not going to sit down and meditate. I hear you. And if you were in my office as a patient, I might not just be lecturing to you about mindfulness, right? So please continue to stick around as we dive into what exactly is mindfulness anyway. Mindfulness is the awareness that arises through paying attention on purpose in the present moment without judgment or expectation. Let's say that again. It's the awareness that arises through paying attention on purpose in the present moment without judgment or expectation. There's a lot layered in there, right? It is our basic human ability to be here now, to be aware of where we are and what we're doing without getting swept away by reactivity or numbed out by overwhelm. This is not always easy, but it is something that we are designed to do. It is a capacity that we have within us. I actually have the butterfly from Ram Dass's Be Here Now book tattooed on my arm as a reminder to myself to practice my mindful magic moment. So even though it's a capacity we have built into us as human beings, it's not always easy, especially if we haven't cultivated it. So here's a key distinction that I like to make with patients. Mindfulness is a quality, meditation is a practice. You can practice mindfulness. So meditation is like exercise for your mind, and mindfulness is the quality that grows out of that exercise. And because there's so much noise online, let's bust a few myths around this. And maybe if you're one of those people that's been avoiding it, this will be helpful for you. So, myth number one, you have to clear your mind. Nope. Minds think. The practice is simply noticing when it wanders and bringing it back. This is why a breathwork practice can be helpful because you have something to focus on. Myth number two, you need half an hour sitting in silence. Not true. 2 minutes counts, okay? Myth number three, it's religious. It definitely is not. Mindfulness belongs to everyone. Now, let's connect this to your nervous system because this is where the magic really happens. When you're stressed or overwhelmed, your autonomic nervous system usually takes two roads: fight or flight, which we've talked about before, your sympathetic fight or flight, where you're charged up, you're tense, you're reactive, you're ready to fight or flight, and freeze or shut down. We've talked more about that dorsal vagal shutdown, right? Where you're disconnected, checked out, collapsed. You can go back to our episodes on this, the vagus nerve episode and the Safe and Sound Protocol episode. And mindfulness, especially when it's paired with breath awareness, helps to bring you into that ventral vagal socially engaged state. Again, we did go over this in an episode. So if this is not familiar to you, you can go back and learn about polyvagal theory and what these states are. But that ventral vagal state is that place where you feel safe, calm, connected, engaged. You have access to compassion in this state. And here's what's actually happening physiologically when you pause and notice. So if you're about to go into a more activated, triggered state and you're able to pause, you'll notice that your breath rhythm is changing. If you're able to take a long, slow exhale That's actually activating your vagus nerve and signaling to your body you are safe. Your biochemistry is shifting. Your stress hormones are dropping. Your blood pressure is lowering. Your digestion is turning back on. Remember, that's that parasympathetic rest, digest, safe state. And this is why mindfulness isn't just mental relaxation, it's nervous system training. We've talked about the safe and sound protocol before, right? Where we're training our nervous system to be able to move in and out of regulation because that is going to happen to us in a day. It already happened in that example by the time 7:15 a.m. rolled around, right? So many of my patients do come in and they say, I can't do mindfulness. I picture myself sitting cross-legged on a cushion chanting Om, and that's not just me. And oh yeah, Dr. Kelly, you're gonna make me do breath work and yoga, and I'm just gonna warn you right now, those are not up my alley. Those are not my things, right? So I've had so many patients say this. I'm going to give an example of one of them, but this is a common theme. And especially if we have not cultivated this practice, it doesn't feel safe for us to do it at first. It feels really uncomfortable. And for some people, it even feels like a waste of time or more triggering. So, this patient of mine, I created a practice that was more for her. So she started her mornings by letting her dogs out, making tea, sitting on the porch and listening to birds and writing in her journal. Now before that, she was that 7:15 a.m. everything's being thrown my way and I haven't taken any time for myself. So everyone's morning is going to be different. You might not be able to carve out morning time, but I guarantee there's some point in the day where you can take a few minutes and you can create a mindful practice for yourself. So she had no timer, she had no app, she had no cushion, just presence. I just wanted her to be present in the moment. And after a few weeks, she told me, I'm starting my day feeling more blissed out. I'm less reactive with my kids. And when stress hits, I can come back to calm faster. So, very often you'll hear me talk about the window of tolerance or our threshold for stress. So, as we practice mindfulness, as we practice coming in and out of regulation, as we create safety in our body, we are increasing our window of tolerance or our threshold to stress. So, not only are we going to be less likely to get triggered into sympathetic fight or flight, but when we do, which we inevitably will, we've cultivated a muscle that can bring us back into that parasympathetic rest and digest. And hopefully, we have some tools and we can just pull out our breathwork tool and say, okay, I'm getting really dysregulated here. I'm going to pause and I'm going to take a moment and breathe. But if we haven't practiced that at all, that's not going to achieve that result for us as readily. And that's essentially what mindfulness is to me and my practice. And you don't have to wait to set aside practice time. I do that. You'll hear me often talk about how I do carve out that time every day, but I really need a very strong muscle to bring me back from sympathetic into parasympathetic. I need a really strong mindfulness practice in my life to hold space for patience and to be able to navigate others' healing processes when I have my own life going on as well, so that I can co regulate with them, so that I can experience regulation within my own being. So I definitely do set aside that time. With patients, I'm working on finding ways that we can even weave this into the day. So some of the most powerful moments are what I call mindful magic moments. So she didn't want to sit on a cushion and own, right? But she was able to look up at the sky or notice the way that the sun hits water when she's walking at the beach. Time in nature is a really great way to build in mindful magic moments to our day. You almost, without even trying, are going to sit there and notice something beautiful, right? Or maybe watching your kid be really sweet and silly on the playground and just staring at them in wonder, like, wow, I made that awesome little creature, right? Or maybe feeling the breeze move through the trees, maybe cuddling and petting a pet, a cat or a dog, smelling fresh basil in your garden or a flower in bloom, hearing a bird call or a burst of laughter from those you love. These little pauses are not small, they're micro trainings for your nervous system. And each time that you pause and you notice, you're strengthening your capacity to live in the present rather than on autopilot, and you are increasing your threshold or your window of tolerance so that you're less likely to get triggered. In the trauma world, we also refer to these moments as glimmers. So I have some Instagram posts on this, but essentially you're finding the glimmers throughout the day. And that can be such a wonderful way to regulate your nervous system. And mindfulness is really about observation. So, in Vipassana meditation, one of the oldest mindfulness traditions, you simply observe your inner reality. So, when negativity arises, two things happen, right? Your breath is going to lose its natural rhythm, and a biochemical reaction creates a sensation in the body. Mindfulness is noticing those shifts instead of reacting automatically. You're actually observing those shifts, and that is creating that space that we've been talking about. And over time, you're decoupling the stimulus from the response. So I'll often talk about this as two sides to a coin, right? So you have, let's say, your mind and your inner reality on one side, and you have your body and your physical or physiological response on the other side. So when I'm working with a patient, I might have them practicing breath work or mindfulness or doing the safe and sound protocol so that we can cultivate this ability to pause and notice the space between mind and body. So an example might be a patient that has health anxiety that notices some physical sensation in their body, and they immediately start telling themselves a story that they have cancer or something terrible is going on with their health, right? So if we're able to notice the physical change, the change in their breath or the tightening of their muscles, and we're able to breathe into that and relax that state before the mind gets crazy with the story about them having cancer, that is actually increasing that window of tolerance again. So they're less likely to get triggered into that story. So this takes time. This takes practice, right? And very often it takes them reaching out to me when they're having an episode of health anxiety and me explaining, no, that's not what that is, or we've looked into that. So sometimes there does need to be some training of this buffer, this space between mind body. But when you can start to recognize that they are connected in that way, and that as you calm your body, you will also calm your mind, it is a really profound and powerful lesson. And it's one of the things that I love to teach patients. This is where emotional intelligence grows, in that pause, in that noticing space. And it's one of the take homes that I would love for you to have from this episode. And because of neuroplasticity, the more you practice, the more your brain changes. The brain has this amazing ability to change. Long-term mindfulness practices are associated with a smaller amygdala, which means less reactivity and fear. So essentially the part of your brain that is wired to trigger reactivity and fear is less. It's smaller, actually. That's so cool, right? And long-term mindfulness practices are associated with more activation in the prefrontal cortex. So the prefrontal cortex is the part of your brain that helps with good decision making and emotional regulation. So it's almost like prevention for dysregulation, right? And more gray matter in those regions is linked to compassion and empathy. And you're going to be much more likely to be able to get into that ventral vagal safe state. This is neuroplasticity in action. What you practice grows stronger, right? No one else can do this for you. No one can do this practice for you. It is not in a pill. It is something that you cultivate. And it is amazing to watch as women who maybe had been resistant to meditation or mindfulness start to weave in these small mindful magic moments. I can see their brains changing and their behavior changing, their levels of reactivity changing, their anxiety going down, their moods more stable, they're less depressed, they have more energy. So this is why mindfulness is one of the first seeds that I talk about in my group program, From Burnout to Balance. It's why it is a foundational tool when we're working on the gut-brain axis. It has such far-reaching biochemical and physiological impacts, but you're also going to feel better, which is usually the goal when a patient is working with me. So maybe I've sold you on mindfulness. Hopefully I have. So how do you actually begin? This is why I usually link mindfulness and breathwork together when I'm introducing them, because one of the easiest ways to begin is with a simple breathwork practice. I've talked about this before on the podcast. I'm going to list a few simple breathwork practices here for you. I do mention them in my Seeds of Health journal as well. And as I mentioned, I'll have some breathwork practitioners as guests on the podcast. So I'm going to list some here that you can look up or you can reach out to me for more information about them. So one would be box breathing. We've talked about that and I've guided you through one before. Another one would be 4-6-8 or 5-7-9 breathing, where you're inhaling for 4, holding for 6, exhaling for 8. Another would be diaphragmatic or belly breathing. I will tend to weave a few of these together. So we might be engaging or breathing with our diaphragm. Now, that doesn't mean you're not breathing air up into the chest as well. So we'll have our breathwork expert explain all of those details to you. But you can just Google diaphragmatic belly breathing, and that might be your step one. Buteyko breathing, which is great for regulation. I talk about this a lot with my SIBO patients. If you want to get a little bit more advanced, you can look into holotropic breath work. It's a little bit more stimulating, or traditional pranayama breath. So pranayama is the breath work that I do every day in my yoga practice. And I recommend you start with 1 to 3 minutes a day. Start with 1 minute, and then you can build up. You're going to have a little bit of resistance if you haven't done this before. It might feel a little bit challenging for you to start, or you might jump in and realize, oh, yeah, that feels really good. I'm going to do 10 minutes tomorrow. So titrate up, work yourself up, and you can do breath work on its own, or you can weave it into yoga. Yoga is moving your body with your breath. You can weave it into a journaling practice or even a meditation. I also really love walking meditation. I find that patients who are a little more resistant to a practice are really fine with the idea of going out and walking at the beach. And I just ask them to not bring their phone, not bring something that's going to be notifying them, or don't listen to anything, and just watch your feet as you walk or look at the waves as you walk. Walking meditation is a great introduction to a mindfulness practice. And then step 2, after breath work and maybe a little walking meditation, would be to include a mindfulness or stress reduction practice every day outside of just a few minutes of breath work. So I've mentioned a few minutes ago Vipassana meditation. You can also look into transcendental meditation. Progressive muscle relaxation is a really nice practice. I do that sometimes before and after my yoga practice. Yoga Nidra is one of my favorite things to recommend. You can also refer to that as non-sleep deep rest. So there's a couple different schools of thought on the definition of that, but you can just look up Yoga Nidra and find a video online. I'll very often do this with new patients. Guided visualization or imagery. If I have time, I'll walk you guys through a little guided imagery in a minute. And mindfulness-based stress reduction. Again, you can just Google these things and see what resonates with you. What are you drawn to? Or even heart rate variability training with biofeedback. If you're someone that needs more feedback and you need more input of, am I doing this right? There's not a right or wrong, but I know some of you out there are going to want some way to know that you're doing it right. And then step 3, so that one of these really sticks, once you found one that you enjoy or that you're interested in and you're willing to try out, step 3 is habit stack it. So link your new practice to something you're already doing every day. So that's why in my Seeds of Health journal in the morning, I call this the Root to Rise routine, where you might begin with one mindful breath and you might say to yourself, looking in the mirror, I love you. And you might do a kindness or a compassion meditation. It's something you can do in a few minutes right when you wake up and you go into the bathroom to brush your teeth. So you don't even need to think about it. It's just built into your day. And in the evening, during your shutdown to reboot routine, you can close the day with a gratitude practice where you write down 3 good things and you take 3 deep breaths. Again, you can start out really, really simple. And if you're weaving those mindful magic moments into your day, as you're mindfully making your tea or brushing your teeth or walking the dog outside, just take a pause every so often and just notice and appreciate what is around you. Notice the thoughts in your mind and take a deep breath if those thoughts are somewhat dysregulating. So let's try together for a couple minutes. Let's first just do a simple mindful breath. So you'll place one hand on your belly and one hand on your heart. And I just want you to feel your body. and notice your breath. And you don't have to do anything to control it. Just notice any sensations, maybe the rise and fall of your chest, the warmth of your hand. My hand's a little cold right now, but hopefully your hands are warm. Maybe you'll notice that there's a stillness or a pause between your breaths, or you'll notice that your breath is kind of fast paced or ragged. And when your mind wanders, and it will, just gently come back to your breath. I'm going to close my eyes for a minute and just breathe with me. And since you're here for a podcast, I won't do that for too long. But even that quick little just check in, where's your breath? Where's your mind at? That's a mindful magic moment. Okay, now that we're ready, let's take a couple of minutes to practice something called heart coherence. This is a simple exercise from heart math research that helps align your breath, your heart, and your emotions. It feels really good. It's super easy. And so you're gently going to close your eyes if you're comfortable doing that. Of course, don't do it if you're driving or walking somewhere. And again, I'm just going to have you place one hand over your heart and breathe. And you're going to bring awareness right here into your heart space, into the center of your chest. Just be aware of your hand on your heart. I like to even picture my heart in there, and I like to pick a color. And if we want to be aligned with our chakras for a moment, maybe your heart is an emerald green. So just picture your green heart under your hand. Now, slow your breathing a little bit this time. You're going to inhale gently through your nose for about 5 seconds. And exhale through your mouth for about 5 seconds. Find a rhythm that feels natural and steady for you, and continue to breathe like that. As you breathe, imagine the breath flowing directly in and out of your heart. And whatever color you gave your heart, I gave mine emerald green. Imagine that breath is green flowing in and green flowing out. And that breath is wrapping all around your heart with each inhale. And imagine it is filling your heart with warmth and light. And with each exhale, imagine releasing tension and heaviness. Each inhale filling with warmth and light. With each exhale, imagine releasing tension or heaviness. Inhale, warmth and light. Exhale, release tension and heaviness. Now I want you to bring your mind to something that fills you with gratitude or appreciation or even joy. It might be the face of someone you love, a sweet moment with your child, the way sunlight hits their hair, or even the smell of a flower that you've planted in your garden. It might be a moment that someone has done something for you that you were truly appreciative and grateful for, appreciative of and grateful for. And breathe that in. And let that appreciation expand in your chest as you continue breathing through your heart. Inhale gratitude. Exhale love. Notice how your body is responding. Maybe more calm, maybe more warm, maybe you feel more steady. This is heart coherence. It's your physiology sinking into balance. Take one more slow, deep breath, filling your heart with appreciation. And exhale fully. When you're ready, gently open your eyes and carry this feeling with you into the rest of your day. You see, mindfulness is not about perfection. It's not about having the perfect practice. It's about presence. It's about creating that space between stimulus and response. And in that space, finding your growth and your freedom. So start with 2 mindful breaths today. Tomorrow, maybe a whole mindful minute. And over time, this seed grows into resilience, compassion, and a nervous system that can meet life's challenges with steadiness. And don't forget, if you'd like support in weaving these practices into your day, I created the Seeds of Health journal just for that. And I'll also create a little handout on mindfulness, a guide that can walk you through breath work and some daily practices that you can start right now. You can download both for free in the show notes. And if this resonated with you, please like and download and subscribe so you don't miss any episodes. And absolutely, please share this with a friend who you think would enjoy it. And if you're able to, take a few minutes out of your day, maybe after one of your mindful magic moments. And if you could go in and review the show, it's the only way that I know how to grow so that we can get this in the hands of more women who would benefit from pure root cause healing and some nervous system regulation mixed in. So I hope you have a wonderful day, and I can't wait to start another Seeds of Health episode with you. So be on the lookout for those. I think the next one we'll do is hydration and hydrotherapy. Have a great day. Talk to you soon.